Sure.
Ready.
My name's Charlie Starrett from Transformational Women, and I'm spending my time having conversations over a cuppa with influential and inspirational women, and they are actually inspiring me to lift myself up, just as I help to raise other women to lift themselves up and use their voices in an empowering way. So at the moment I'm talking with Valerie Barrow, and I'm having a fascinating conversation about, and I think what we got up to was you married your second husband, you were on the point of moving to the country, and I jumped a little bit ahead of me because there's something very important we missed, isn't there?
Yes, there
about
is,
in Sydney.
Yes,
and I think
right.
that would be fascinating to reflect on that.
Yes, that is a calling. That was the calling, that's right.
That's the calling.
That happened before we moved to the country, and that was, I was awakened one night with a voice asking me to stand up.
Oh.
So John was asleep beside me in the bed, but I got out of bed and stood up, and then the voice said I could get back into bed again. Right.
Was this, sorry to interrupt, but was this a voice that was outside of you, or was it inside of you?
It was inside my
Inside
head.
of you.
Yes. Although sometimes it does speak from outside.
Okay.
And I turn around, I think who's there, and there's no one there.
Right.
But it's coming through. So there's no separation really. It's just connecting, right? And so the second time I was back into bed and thinking, what on earth is going on? So a voice said, stand up again. This is all before I started metaphysical work really. And so I got up again and said I could get back into bed again. I was beginning to worry then, because the third time, again the voice says in a very nice, dignified way, very compelling way, stand up. And I thought, this is, oh dear, is John going to wake up and ask me what I'm doing? And I won't be able
Someone
to
else
tell
in
him.
the
I'm
room,
thinking I'm getting in
Was it
and
a
out
male
of bed.
voice or a female voice?
Male.
Oh, it's male. Oh, right. So you would have had a shock.
And I thought, this is ridiculous. What am I going to tell him? There's a voice that keeps telling me to get in and out of bed. Anyway, the third time I got out of bed, and he said to me, from time to time, he said, this is a calling, this is a calling. And actually, as he said that, he was pointing with a long white finger. It was a very different hand. So it was a long white finger pointing straight at me, and then it turned sideways to show it was a hand, right? And then he said, you will be awakened, and I would like you to have pencil and paper beside your bed, and you will be taught many things, given many messages, right? So I thought, didn't think about that at all. I just wondered what was going on. But it was right. After that, from time to time, I kept getting awakened, usually around 3 o'clock in the morning, and I was taught things. I was basically, I missed out on my education really at 14. So I was being educated, which because I always wanted to go to university. So I was starting to go into a university of life, not just life, but education. So, because where does the word university come from?
Universe.
And that's who was teaching me. So the only thing missing is that I didn't have the, the certificates afterwards and the hat.
Okay, so we talk about the University of Life, and you were getting your education downloaded at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yes, it was biochemistry, and I can't think now, it was so long ago, but the different subjects of ordinary lessons that you would receive at university.
So for one thing, you had this calling and this voice saying to you...
Physics, chemistry, all those things.
And all those things.
Yeah.
So you had this voice saying to you, stand up, and you kind of, the feeling I got was that you just accepted it. There was no kind of fear?
No, there wasn't actually, because the voice seemed to calm me, and it was just so... It was compelling, and it was like the voice of God, really, I suppose. But I did, and there is a way of looking at God too, I suppose, in many ways, that I like the way the Indigenous people think of God. That's in everything. It's like a force. But getting back to that experience, actually, I did hop back. I didn't tell John anything about that because...
How did you keep it from him if you were waking up at 3 o'clock every morning?
Well, that's the point. I actually went away to another room with the paper and pencil, and also I was prompted to go. I even turned the television on, and something would be on the very subject that they were teaching me. It was quite remarkable, really, and wonderful. And then when I'd be looking up the dictionary, they'd ask me to look up a word, and I'd look, and then there was a derivation to that word, and then another word would sort of pop out at me and draw my attention, so I'd look up that word, and I was being taught so many things in so many ways, very different from the way we're taught here on Earth. But it was a very clever way, because I learnt a lot. I won't say I know everything, far from it, but it was certainly giving me extra understanding about life. And I soon learned, of course, that everything is energy, and it is possible to walk through walls if you could manage to change all your atoms and cells, and it has been done by clever people in other times past, and those sort of things. But there was a mixture of general knowledge, you know, physics, chemistry, all those sort of things, but also the esoteric type knowledge, you know, about
metaphysics,
remote viewing, and all those kind of things. I'm just trying hard to think about the different ones now. It's, you know, when you hold something and you get an energy, a feel from it, and more information from it. It's telling you something, it's speaking to you. It's hard for people to understand sometimes that you can do that. There are a lot of people that do it, particularly indigenous people. So.
And I can relate to that, because even in a group of ordinary people, I was at a session where we were bending spoons just by our thoughts.
That's right.
And I couldn't believe it, that I actually managed to bend a spoon, and so did other people around me managed to bend spoons, and I have them to this day. they're you know, and they're bent. They're hard to bend.
Yes.
So I think more and more this kind of knowledge that you are downloaded is becoming more mainstream.
It is. It definitely is. There was some, you know, I felt very shy about what was happening to me and not confident enough to speak out or share it, even to my husband. So one night, this being, while he was away, he used to go away to business in Asia, and I'd be at home alone in this new house that we'd moved to the country, and in the Southern Highlands at Canyon, and I was alone, but he'd come and talk to me. He'd sit on the bed. I'd feel the bed go down, but I couldn't see him. And so they were testing me in that way. I was not frightened until I saw an image of an ET, and that was when, I can't think of his name, there was a fellow from America that wrote Communion, and he came and he was talking about it and wrote the book, saw it, and I was terrified, and I thought, you know, why am I so afraid? It's ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. So I bought it and read it, and realised I was having the same experiences, which was being taken and finding myself on another world, probably on a spaceship, and it was like an operating table with a light there, and looking down, and all these little ET people around. But there was others that were in robes, you know, and I wasn't afraid of them. But the experience I was having was terrifying. I had to get past that. So I went to a hypnotherapist and see if I could work with that, and it came up again, and then I said, no, I don't want to know anymore. I understand. I was terrified, but I understand now. At another level, I had given permission to it to all happen, for cells to be taken from my earth body and be used in a good way to help find and help cure diseases, malformation, different things on earth. And the stuff people were working with that and giving back that information telepathically to whoever who wants to pick it up in the science or wherever it was that could help people. Okay? They do help us quite a lot, even though we don't realise it.
And you mentioned that in Sydney that you had this sense that this was your awakening to your calling.
Yes.
And just in a sentence or two, can you just define what you have come to understand your calling is?
Well, because I didn't know or understand straight away. I thought I was being just trained for one particular way to find people that have been murdered or something, and get in, just tune into it and then see what would happen. And something that a lot of clairvoyants do to go to the police and give the information, and they're able to trace.
Right, yeah.
I've done that sort of thing. I've done all sorts of things that I thought was going to be what they wanted me to do, but no, that ended, and then I'd move on to another subject. Right?
So what
that's
is
what
it?
kept happening.
What is it?
Well, I didn't know really, but now it's led to. I did ask because I was writing down also messages, and they said that if they told me exactly what I was going to do, I would never believe it, and I wouldn't have. Looking back from where I got that message, but now of course they've trained me. While we were still living in the country at Canyon Lee, White Eagle started to come to me and awaken me and ask me would I agree to go with him, and I just allowed him to pick me up and carry me off like a child. Actually, I don't remember exactly what happened, but when I came back the next day, it was like I could communicate very easily, clairaudiently, with White Eagle if I spoke to him. It was like a click, and he was there, and he said he would come anytime. So that was a communication with unseen worlds and unseen being, but it turned out to be a past life memory as well, because I was his son in a life that he had as an American Red Indian on Earth in what we know as USA now.
USA,
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
All that was guiding me and leading me, and each time I had something that was teaching me all the time, really, but preparing me also for what turned out to be when I received how did it come? It was like, now I want to tell you first about the house when it was finally built on the land out at Canyon Lee, which
you can tell me that in a minute.
Oh, sorry.
What I'd like to do is just to try and nail down what your calling is, because I just asked you tonight, a sentence or two.
Fair enough.
So if you can understand it from where it is now.
Yes, yes, the calling is now. I understand.
Now you
Look
understand.
back.
What
As a matter of fact, it's just this year that all the dots have come together, and I understand that I'm communicating. I've been trained, awakened at night and trained to be a direct voice channeler. That means I allow, and I've agreed to, because I know them so well, for this being to come in, take over, borrow the voice box and speak. And so it can be speak in a male voice, sometimes in a female voice. Sometimes, it's not always the same people, but certainly White Eagle was coming through for quite a lot of the time also. And not only teaching me, he asked me to set up meditation groups so that people would come, and they were learning also. And I made sure that I listened to the way he was speaking and the channeling, because I was always asked to record it. And I realised if I didn't listen, I wouldn't stay where all the others were learning, because I couldn't remember. So I had to listen to it as well.
So I want to come back. I want to come back to that a little bit later on.
I still haven't answered you, have I?
You haven't answered me, no, but I'll let you off with that one, because that's kind of enough of a clue, I guess, to where you are now. And for the benefit of our viewers, they get a sense of where you've moved to, from where you were to where you moved to. And I know, because I've met you over the last few days, I've got a sense of much more of who you are and what your true gifts are. But I won't reveal that without your permission. That's up to you. But I think this, go back to your Canyon Lee, because I interrupted you on that bit. When you moved to Canyon Lee, there was a different connection there, because you've moved from the city to the country.
To the country, that's right. But we were in a village. And we were set up that John wanted to find a piece of land and put a manager on it and help with tax deductions, I think he had in mind, or something like that. But it ended up, to make a long story short, we ended up selling our house. The agent was saying, "You want to be moving, won't you, John?" And I was saying, no, I said, because it would have meant building a new house and no services whatever.
So just a piece of land?
At that time,
just
that's
a piece
right.
Of, how big?
Well, it was 102 acres. But it was up and down like this, so there would have been more when you walked.
Definitely
there,
more,
right? And down at the base was this lovely creek, and there were times, we were out there for 18 years, and there was times that if there was drought, and it never dried. So there was all this underground water that was there. And we did know and hear that the Aboriginal people, before the white man came, used that area as a meeting place. So they hold corroborees, or they just meet and sort out differences that they may have had, hand gifts,
Different tribes?
Yes, different tribes, and so that it didn't belong to any one tribe.
No. Oh.
And then there was tribes that came from the coast also, because they said it was a place of healing waters. And we know that there are healing waters. They've been blessed out there, by upstairs.
How did you know they were healing waters? Or did they
Upstairs
manifest themselves in a different way when you looked at them?
Yes, well, when John, we went away to Asia at one stage, and he wanted a road cut that would be easy to get down to the creek that I mentioned. And so while we were away, there was water exposed. It was like a, what do you call it?
Spring?
Pardon?
A spring?
Yes, a spring, right.
There you go. Yeah.
It was a spring, and it came out, and it was captured and held so that it was easily available with a tap, right? That sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And so that was a blessing, because when we were, it's a long story, but when we were given the understanding then from Cosmic Sai Baba, or Sai Baba, that I'd been to the ashram, that's another story again. The blessing was given from there when I came back from overseas, because I'd gone with John on business, but then he said, if you like, you could go to see Sai Baba, which was just across the water from Malaysia to India. And so I did go, and I was given and shown that it was a bless, that water. So we came back, and at the time we had given a name to the property. I must tell you this, because I was in the office, my office, not John's got an office, and the Australian edition of the Oxford Dictionary fell off the desk, and there were family all there for the weekend. We're all trying to dream up names for the property, right? And as it fell down, I picked it up, and it said, I caught Alcheringa. And I thought how similar that was to the word alchemy. And I was interested, so I read, and it said alchemy was the creator ancestor, and that that it was also part of when the first ancestors were created.
Alcheringa.
Yes,
Yeah.
the word.
Yeah.
So we all agreed that sounded like a good name, right? But that name, we named it that, Alcheringa then.
Yeah.
But that name actually drew other things to us at that property.
Yeah.
Because by that time we had a house, and we were able to, it was like a mini retreat actually. People could come and stay, and there was a healing room, that sort of thing. Yeah. And then, because of that name, there was a lady that was in television actually, and she had a sacred Alcheringa stone. And she was sick. She was wanting somewhere she could take it and leave it, because she was worried about it, and she wanted someone she could trust. So she heard about me living at Alcheringa, right? She came, walked in the door, walked straight over and gave me the stone because she trusted me. And as soon as I took it in my hand, I knew it. I started to cry. I thought, I just was a bit overwhelmed with it actually, and just anyway, we had a very nice social afternoon, and then from after that, I was prompted to sit with this Alcheringa stone, which belonged to the Aboriginal people.
Yeah.
I wasn't really supposed to have it, but it wasn't against the law in New South Wales. So it had a story to tell me. And that was also the way Alcheringa, the creator spirit, introduced himself. So he started coming too. Instead of White Eagle, he came. And I was sorry to lose White Eagle, because like he was a father and not alive, and my teacher. But this time, there was a reason. There was a message, and there was a story that needed to be told. And so I used to sit with the stone on my lap. It was all wrapped in paper bark and string, and I never opened it because I knew I was female, I wasn't supposed to open it, and it was men's business, and so I always respected it. And it did allow me to cover in beautiful white blue light and lift my talk. I could talk, but knew I was coming from a different consciousness, which after having the near-death experience I knew existed rather than just my brain. And this other consciousness was there because I'd already been flying around in it when I first had that near-death experience. And so he just allowed me and prompted me all the time to speak. And so it became like a diary, and that was the first book. And I took it to the ashram at Cosmic Sai Baba, Sri Satya Sai Baba in Puttaparthi in India, because I knew he was connected to it in some way, but I wasn't sure, because I also seemed to be able to connect to him telepathically as well. And so when I thought, I went with a group, and I took the manuscript, and we were called for an interview, which was extraordinary because thousands of people go there every day. Millions of people know him, but you know, it's not advertised anywhere, but people know. And he called us for this interview, and he was laughing and joking with the others from the group, all from Australia, wearing these beautiful green scarves, which other people had said looked like star people because they were shiny. And also it turned out to be the same as my ring, which Sai Baba gave me at another interview.
So beautiful.
And he said, when you look in there,